Hi guys, happy Sunday. Thank you for joining in. My name is Derry and today we are going to dive into the last chapter of this series. On week 1, we talk about how our faith gives you freedom. And on week 2, we talk about having freedom to live not for others' approval. And last week, we talk about having a freedom to make your own choice in life. Today, as the closing, we are going to talk about how to use your freedom and what's the whole point of this freedom. So let's have a listen. Look!
1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, my name is Ashley, and today I want to talk about freedom. Maybe you feel like you don't have a ton of freedom right now. I remember I felt that way when I was in middle and high school too. But what I've learned is that we actually do have some freedom. It just needs to be looked at a little differently. For example, you have the freedom to decide what to do with your words and your actions, your thoughts, and your choices. Even if there are rules or boundaries in your life, you ultimately have the freedom to decide how you're going to respond to them. You see, every single day, we have the choice to decide what we do with the freedom God gives us. What should we do with our freedom? As followers of Jesus, this is an especially important choice. Why? Because how we use our freedom says something to the world about Jesus. Think about it. If kids at your school know that you're a Christian, or that you go to church, or you have a relationship with God, they're probably going to assume a few things about the way you live your life, right? What do you think they'll assume? Maybe you thought other people would think that you would never say anything mean, or that you're never gonna party, or you would never gossip, or you certainly would never post those kind of pictures on social media. And while all of those things may be good, the reality is we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, and we're all gonna make some not so great choices with our freedom along the way. And when we do, sometimes it feels like the whole world is judging us for it. Even though we know that God offers us forgiveness when we mess up, we feel like the rest of the world isn't so quick to forgive us. In fact, they're actually much quicker to judge. Now, can we all just agree to be honest here? Sometimes we're just as quick to judge others too. Sometimes we use our freedom to speak unkindly or be harsh or assume something about the people around us. If you don't know what this is, it's a gavel. It's what a judge uses to get attention in the courtroom or make a final judgment or something like that. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna hit it a bunch, okay. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of some of that judgment. Maybe you went too far in a relationship with someone and you felt judged. Or you got caught in a lie with a friend, or you spread a rumor that really hurt someone. And because of how you used your freedom, you feel like you're always being judged by everyone else around you. Or maybe you're using your freedom to judge other people. Maybe you see students who come to church every Sunday who don't live out what they believe the rest of the week. And instead of showing them kindness, you judge. You make assumptions about who they really are based on what they post on Instagram, or who they hang out with, or what they wear, or the language they use, and who they date. No matter how many times they show up to church or small group, you're keeping score of what they're doing that you think is wrong. Even if you never say it out loud, you are judging them every time you think about them. Or maybe you're not sure what you think about this whole faith thing. You're trying to figure out what faith looks like in your own life. Or you're not sure if you even believe in God. And when you see so many people using their freedom to judge, it certainly doesn't make this whole faith thing seem that great to you. I think the problem is a lot of us are using our freedom to judge the way others are using their freedom. We're banging the gavel every time we judge someone based on the choices they've made or who they are. And when we make judgment the point, I think we're actually missing an opportunity to use our freedom in the right way, the way that God calls us to use it. The good news is that we can actually find an answer for this big question about freedom from a guy named Paul. You see, Paul knew that knowing Jesus changes everything, including the way we use our freedom to treat others. Paul actually offered some advice on this very thing in a letter to people living in a place called Galatia. That letter is found in the New Testament of the Bible, and it's called Galatians. When he was writing this letter to the Galatians, Paul addressed one of the problems he had heard about in the church. Apparently, some of the people in the church of Galatia were struggling to get along with each other. In other words, they were using their freedom to fight with one another. So Paul wrote this to help them out. For you have been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters, but don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. Instead, use your freedom to serve one another in love. For the whole law can be summed up in this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. But if you're always biting and devouring one another, watch out. Beware of destroying one another. Right out of the gate, Paul celebrated their freedom. He reminded the Galatians that they were, in fact, free. But with that freedom came a choice. They could either use it to love others or use it to be unkind to others. And instead of leaving the answer up to them, Paul reminded the Galatians that the point of faith and freedom is simply to love one another. That's it. That's the simple answer to our question about what we do with our freedom. Love. What does that mean for us? Well, one of the ways we struggle with being unkind to one another is through our judgment. So, if we want to use our freedom the way that Paul suggested we use it, that means we have to start with love. Instead of pointing fingers, judging, and keeping score of everyone else's mistakes, we're simply supposed to love. In other words, loving others is the whole point. We know this is true, not just because of Paul's words, but because Jesus himself said it. One of his closest followers wrote down what they heard Jesus say about this topic, so we could read it today. Take a look. "This is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you." Jesus loves us without judgment. Jesus loves us totally and completely, and that's the same way he commands us to love others. He's asking us to remember that loving others is the whole point. Instead of worrying about other people's choices outside of small group, simply love them when they show up to small group. Instead of thinking about all the reasons they maybe shouldn't be welcomed at church, simply love and welcome them. Instead of fighting, talking, or worrying about the behaviors, actions, and choices of other people, stop judging and simply love. Honestly, isn't that the way we all want to be treated? If you're feeling a lot of judgment from others, wouldn't you say you could use a little more love? Imagine what our schools, our churches, or our groups might be like if we all made the choice to follow the command Jesus gave us to love others. Imagine the way we'd reflect Jesus to others if remembering that loving others is the whole point. Look back at what Paul said could happen when we use our freedom to judge instead of love. But if you're always biting and devouring one another, watch out. Beware of destroying one another. Now, I don't know about you, but this doesn't sound great to me. Devouring, biting, destroying, not what I want for my school, my friends, my church, my group, or my life. But that's what can happen when we use our freedom the wrong way. You see, judgment really has the potential to destroy love. Think about it. A rumor has the potential to destroy someone's reputation. Speaking unkindly has the potential to destroy someone's confidence. A rude welcome at church has the potential to make someone never want to come back. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have a choice, and since we have that freedom, we need to choose love because loving others is the whole point. So let's start by thinking back on the past week. First, ask yourself, how have I judged someone else this week? Think about what you do with your negative opinions of others. Be honest with yourself and think about where you might be using your freedom to judge. Then, think about how you can love that person this week. If there's a person in your life who you find yourself judging instead of loving, ask yourself, what can I do to start encouraging them instead? I think you'll be surprised at how quickly your opinion of that person will change when you start choosing to love them instead of judge them. Because remember, loving others is the whole point. Let's commit to starting this in our groups today. As you go, think about sharing with your group the ways you might be using your freedom to judge rather than love others. Talk about how you as a group can change that and how you can encourage each other to choose love even when it's not easy. Your group is a great place to start working toward using your freedom to love rather than to judge.
So guys, the whole point is to love others. We have the ability to use our freedom to love other people. We actually have the freedom to decide what to do with our words, actions, thoughts, and choices. Remember John 15 verse 12, love each other in the same way I have loved you. That is a very clear and powerful verse. So let's start this week by showing love to others with no exceptions, because that's the whole point of our faith. Thank you for listening, guys, and have a great week.